Hello everybody. Welcome back to World School Summit. We have the lovely Beth with us from Kids Love to Cook. And today Beth is going to take us through 6 steps to teaching our kids how to cook before we even get to the food part. So I'm super excited about hearing this. My kids love to cook, which is why I decided to bring Beth onto the summit. Beth has an online kids can't even speak. Kids cooking club. There's lots of kids cooking club, lots of kids. And even my 6-year-old last week was making naan bread using Beth's recipes and following along with the videos and things. So it's an incredible resource. I know for me, I don't have the patience or really the skills to be able to teach them. And so they have lots of fun with Beth on the video and making meals for us. And it's amazing. So welcome, Beth.
So good to be here today.
All right, I'm going to hop off the screen and Beth is going to walk you through her presentation and I'll be back at the end to ask some questions. All right, enjoy chatting with Beth.
Fabulous. Fantastic. Well, so good to be here today. Kids love to cook. They love to mix, simmer, stir and bake. So my name is Beth, as Annalise said, and I'm the founder of Kids Love to Cook, and we are an online kids cooking school. And I have run cooking classes around Sydney, Australia for the last 10 years. And we've had a blast. We've taught thousands of kids to cook over the years. And but now, one of the things that I really wanted to do was make kids cooking lessons accessible to kids anywhere. And we had an online cooking class. We had an online cooking school. We had an in-person cooking school prior to COVID, and it was so much fun. It was a lot of work and the kids loved it, but you know what? It was great if the kids lived nearby and if they could afford to go to the classes. And so there was my heart was saying, oh, we want to be able to take this to everybody, and kids, whether they live rurally, whether they live overseas, wherever. And so the journey of taking the kids cooking classes from in person and bringing them to the online space. And so we've been doing that. And that's one of the ways that I met Annalise. I was moving my business from being an in-person with a big team and going online. And so as Annalise was talking about in introduction, creating businesses that work for us and also creating businesses that are so much more accessible for our family. And so as I was listening to her introduction, that just resonated with me so well, because creating businesses that serve us is what it's all about. And I am in my late 50s and have run my own business for about 24, 25 years. So let me tell you a little bit about me. Hopefully I can share my screen. There we go. We love tech when it works, don't we? All right.
You are sharing. It's there. You just click along on your...
Yeah, we're trying to make this work.
If you can find it on your screen, we can see it.
Yeah, all right, fantastic.
Okay, you removed it. the big screen.
Sorry, there's an edit involved here.
It's okay. We were there. So you'll have to start again.
We were there, but then it didn't click again.
That's all right. We'll get there.
Sorry, Annalise.
I love the joys of tech.
We'll get there.
This is a new platform. We're not used to it on StreamYard. If you navigate to Canva...
Yeah, see, it's not actually... I don't think it's unloading. I'm going to go to Canva and do it that way, because I think
we were on Canva.
No. Share. Here we go. Beautiful.
It's coming back. There we go. Done. You can see it, right?
All right, great. Do you want me to? Yeah, absolutely. Do you want me to start again?
We're live.
Yes or no?
We're live.
Yeah, great. All right, we love that. All right, fantastic. Excellent. All right then. So let me tell you a little bit about my why. Okay, so this obviously is a very old photo, and this is of my beautiful 4 daughters. And this little poppet here, the tiniest one is now 20. And so for the last 24 or 5 years, I have run my own business, because what I wanted to do was be available and accessible for my beautiful girls. And so this is a photo that was taken earlier this year, because these 2 little lovebirds here got, this was their engagement party. So this is my girls and my family and my beautiful husband. And that was earlier this year. So they got married, best day of of our life as a parent. So that's super fun. And so that is my why, was my why back then, and 24 or 5 years later is still my why. Wonderful. So let's have a chat about teaching your kids to cook. So cooking with your kids can be messy. If I had $1 for every parent that has said to me over the last 10 years, oh, I love my kids to cook, but I hate the mess that they create, then I would well and truly be a wealthy woman, because that has been a narrative that has happened over the years. Cooking with kids can be messy. It can be a little bit overwhelming, particularly if you're cooking with more than one child. Annalise was telling me the other day that when her beautiful daughter was cooking this naan bread, she suddenly realized she wanted to go to the bathroom. And so she was her hands were covered in naan dough. And so it can be messy. It can be like, oh my gosh, like now this is not making my life simple as a parent. It's actually making it a bit more complicated. So it can be a little bit overwhelming. Sometimes, depending on your children, cooking can lead to some interesting topics. And if you've got, with one of my daughters, we had a bit of a trickiness with food. And so when we're cooking, sometimes conversations can come up about all sorts of random things. How we feel about food, how we feel about family, how we feel about cultural things can come in when we're talking about food. But it can also leave you feeling like you've had a tornado come through your kitchen. And so sometimes we can feel like, is it worth the effort teaching my kids to cook? Well, I say absolutely. So what I've got here today is 6 steps for teaching kids to cook. Now, the first one is set the culture before the lesson. Set the culture before the lesson. Now, what I mean by this is before I start every single cooking lesson, and I've been doing this for over 10 years, there are 5 things that I say. I say, wash your hands. Then I say, keep your hands away from your nose and your mouth, or keep your hands away from your body. Cough and sneeze into your elbow. So we're teaching what's normal. Before we cook, we always wash our hands. We don't sneeze into our hands and then keep cooking. Then we say, wash our hands, keep your hands away from your nose, and keep your hands away from your body, cough and sneeze into your elbow, and the most important one, which I feel, is speak nicely about food. So every single lesson that I've done, whether it's with one child or whether it's with 90, I always say these 4 things. Wash your hands, keep your hands away from your body, cough and sneeze into your elbow, speak nicely about food. Now, when I say that, what I'm doing is I'm setting the culture before the lesson. And because what this does, it brings up everybody's little food things. So it's an opportunity to explore different people's food tastes. Now, when you've got more than one child, well, even if you've just got one child, there is things that come up for kids. So you might have a child that just loves every food and you almost have to lock your fridge. Then you might have a child, I had a child that only ate 10 foods. And so that becomes an issue as well. Now, in every single class that I think that I've ever done, there is a tomato hater in every class. So when I come in and I say, okay, guys, we're going to make tomato salsa today, anxiety starts. It's like, oh, man, I don't even like tomato. Like, oh, what are we going to do? Oh, I don't want to, I have to tell the teacher that I can't engage with this. So what I do is I say, do you like corn? Most kids love corn. Now, I, on the other hand, cannot understand why anyone eats corn, because I love tomato, but I hate corn. So in all of this conversation, before we've even got started, we're talking about what I call the nose of cooking. So for some kids, it's like, I don't like what we're eating. Well, I don't like what we're cooking. I don't want to cook. And so when I'm in a classroom setting, I'm wanting to discount the nose. So with the tomato haters, this is what I do, is I'll say, okay, if there's an ingredient here that you don't like, you don't have to eat it. I just give it. Don't eat it. I reline the boundary. But we always speak nicely about food. What we don't do is we don't say, yuck, that's disgusting, or and so it changes the parameter. Oh, okay, so I don't have to eat it. Great, that's okay then. So what I'm doing is providing a positive option or a positive experience. And you can do this in your home of creating a positive experience and dealing with the nose before you've even got to the kitchen. So the first one is set your culture. Second one is communicate clearly. When we're going to cook, particularly when you're in a home setting, we chat about tomorrow we're going to cook chocolate muffins. So we say, this is what we're going to eat. This is what we're going to cook. And then you communicate the how. All right, we're going to set tomorrow afternoon aside and we're going to cook chocolate muffins. So this is what we're going to do. We've got to set up and we've got to plan what we're going to do. Then we're going to cook. Then we're going to clean up. And then we're going to eat. So I say that there are always those 4 processes in every single process. So whether I'm cooking my family dinner, I've still got to set up. I've still got to cook it. Someone's got to clean up, even if you don't do it yourself. And then we're going to eat. So there's these 4 elements. So we're communicating the what, and then we're communicating the how. And cleanup is as much a part of cooking as eating. And so I think it's really important for kids to understand that there is a whole process involved. So it's not just, oh, well, mum does the cleanup or mum does the setting. I mean, of course you would do that if your kids are little, but when you've got primary age children, then teaching the kids the whole process is super important. So communicating the what, the how, and the when. Now, if possible, you want to give prior notice. Now, unless you have got a really spontaneous child, I say that it's important to give that little bit of a buffer time. So, hey, this afternoon at 5 o'clock, we're going to cook muffins. Or tomorrow, we're going to cook muffins. So particularly if you've got a child that loves routine, they need that little bit of time to be able to plan in their head, all right, that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to mentally prepare that we're cooking tomorrow afternoon or this afternoon at 5 p.m. or 3 p.m. or whatever. So it's not a case of, I've got to instantly drop everything. We're doing it now. No, we're planning as part of that, communicating clearly. We're planning the what, the how, and the when. So the kids have got an understanding of what's going to take place. All right, so the first one is set your culture. The second one is communicate clearly. The third one is preparation or prepare. Now, this is actually more to do with the caregiver or the parent than it is for the kids. So read the recipe twice yourself before even attempting it with the kids, so that you've got an understanding of what's involved. Is there a resting time? So if it's like, are you cooking cookies? Are you baking cookies that need a 30-minute time? Is there if you might be making sorbet, or you might be making, what else? Like pizza dough is a really good example. It needs resting time. If you're making gozleme, it only needs, so it's a dough. Gozleme is a dough, and then you need to rest it for 10 minutes. So you as a parent need to understand the process before you get into the cooking. And then when the kids come along and you're cooking with the kids, that's going to make it easy because you've got it already in your own head. Great. Then when we get to the cooking process, you want to get the kids to check off every ingredient and every utensil. So at the beginning of every single online class, what I do is I read through the ingredients, read through the equipment, and then we get cooking. So I'll say to the kids, okay, check it out, put it out on your workbench, make sure that everything's there. And what we're doing here is this is our preparation time. And we read through the ingredients and making sure that we've got everything on our workbench. So that's teaching the kids that there's a preparation process. And as I say, I do this at the beginning of every single cooking lesson. Wonderful. So first one is set your culture. You're wanting to make it this really positive environment that your kids are going to really enjoy the process. Then it's communicate clearly. Third one is preparation. And the fourth one is cook at the correct learning stage. So first thing I'll say is don't be afraid to start your kids cooking or working with food from a very young age. So there's lots of great ingredient or utensils or equipment out there these days that help your kids work with food. So you've got all these fabulous little kitty cutters or little knives that are really blunt but chop things. So we always start with things like strawberries, bananas, papaya, dragon fruit, even soft fruits are great ways for your kids to start. Then of course we've got all of the, you've got that Target, wherever, and you pop the chopped onion in, and then you pull it, and it dices it up into little pieces. You've got the nicer dicer, which chops your veggies and things, utensil, chops your ingredients into smaller pieces. So there's lots of things out on the market that help your kids stay safe, but still get them involved with the cooking process. So cooking at the right learning stage. So at Kids Love to Cook, what we do is we have 4 stages of cooking skill levels. So the first one is 1 star. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 star. So the first one, so I'm giving you a little bit of a background of what stage to work your children at. So 1 star cooks, these guys, they're just learning. You might be or they might be just starting out in their learning journey. And it's nothing to do with ages. It's to do with what exposure they've had with cooking. So your 1 star cooks, again, as I say, cutting up your vegetables and your fruit. So your soft fruits, bananas, strawberries, papaya, dragon fruit, melon, cucumbers, avocado, cherry tomatoes, color, vibrancy. That's your 1 star cooks. Then your 2 star cooks. Well, I say this is where your fun starts. I will say one more thing about 1 star cooks: spreading. Spreading is such a it's kind of like a really key learning skill. So spreading is when you've got your bread or you've got a rice cake, or you've got a crepe or a pancake or anything like that, and the kids put the knife, whether it's, it's a soft knife, or you can even use a spoon, soft knife into the butter or into the peanut butter or into your mashed avocado, and then you spread it onto bread. So the kids are learning. They're learning, how much do I pick up onto my utensil? How do I put it onto the bread? And how do I spread it? Now, we've all seen the kids when they've got butter, and say in Australia, we're Australian, so we eat Vegemite, Vegemite in a big clump. Now, nobody wants Vegemite in a big clump. It's like sometimes you spread it very thinly. It's got a nice little salty flavor. But if you're doing that with jam, or you're doing that with even Nutella, learning how to spread is such a key skill development stage. So let's click back to the 2-star. So 2-star cooks are all about baking. And that is when these skills that you have for life are learned. So maths, learning to measure, whether they're liquids or solids. So learning what's 1 cup of flour, or how much is 120 grams worth of butter, or 12 ounces worth of butter, or how much is 500 mils of milk, or how much is half a cup of milk. So learning those things, learning how to use a measuring cup, and I've got measuring cups over here. So learning how to use measuring cups. Do you do it halfway up, or do you do it right to the top? These things, they're like foundational stuff, but once they've learnt it, they've got it for life. Learning how to crack an egg. Oh, kids love learning how to crack eggs. And so that's super, it's a really key skill level. Learning about your words like folding, stirring, mixing, scraping, kneading, all of these words, they're language, and they're words that are really important to cooking. But again, once you've learned how to use these words in context, what is folding, and why do we fold in food? We're folding with the spatula or the scraper. And these words, learning it, how it applies to cooking, it's super practical, and it's increasing their word base. Great. So you've got maths, you've got language, and you've got your practical skills. And all the time, whether you're baking a muffin, whether you are baking a cake, making a slice, whether it's going straight into the fridge. So if you've got a non-baked lemon slice, then you are managing the risk as a parent. So 2-star cooks, they're not going to be putting a muffin tray into a hot oven. You're managing that. And so that's great for the 2-star cooks, because they're the things that they're learning then. 3-star cooks is when we start to introduce savory food, or not so much savory food, but your meals. Now, every day we have a deadline of when we're going to eat. So whether it's dinner, whether you have your main meal in the middle of the day, midweek, I call them midweek meals, because they're they're the food that you eat during the week. You might not necessarily have as much time as what on the weekend, but they're midweek meals, and they're your everyday meals that we share together as a family. So you've got the deadline, and that's a great opportunity for the kids to learn what you make and how you're making it, and what you're cooking in your family. It's not just food coming to them, but when they're involved in the process, it changes their perspective on food. When they cook for someone, when they cook and they share food with others, again, it's another dynamic. If you've got a child that loves to do things for people, then learning to either bake a muffin or cook a meal, whether it's a simple pasta dish, whether it's cheese on toast, and they're able to give it to somebody else, whether it's another family member or whether it's a neighbor, or you wanting to bring it to a function, sharing food for someone who loves giving is just floats their boat. 3-star cooks, we start to introduce the concept of cooking more than one thing at a time. So whether you're cooking pasta and a sauce, or whether you're cooking rice, stir-fry vegetables, your 3-star cooks start to be able to manage more than one thing at a time. They've learned how to spread. They've learned how to cut. They've learned how to line a baking tray. They can make chocolate cake or muffins, but now they're learning how to cook midweek meals. A great way for 3 and 4-star cooks is to grow in their skills is to create a meal plan together as a family. And sometimes that's a bit of a growth process for us as parents to include others in in this process. But you know what it is? They're learning. They're learning about your why. Why do we eat what we eat in our family? Is it a cultural thing? Is it about budget? Is it because we've got someone who's gluten-free or who's egg-free? Or do we eat low fat? Or are we carnivores? Or are we vegetarians or vegans? Explaining the why is so good for older children that have got that. Because what it does, it empowers them to understand what you do as a family. Again, it teaches them your family culture. Ask for their ideas. And you can, once your kids get a bit older, you can even delegate out a night for one person to oversee. Like, okay, it's Susie's night on Tuesday. It's Johnny's night on Wednesday. It's Mum's night on Friday. It's Dad's or Grandma's on Saturday, etc., etc. So what they're doing is you're slowly giving them more power or more ability to be able to make choices for themselves. So the cooking becomes like a vehicle to so much more. It creates ownership of their own food choices and your family culture. It teaches planning, teaches nutrition, and teaches budgeting. At the end of every single lesson that I teach, I say, pack, wash, wipe. As part, I was talking before about the whole 4 elements of every cooking process: the setup, the cook, the clean, and the eat. Most important bit, the eat. But one of the things that I realized as I was teaching kids was that they were doing the fun stuff, the cooking, and then grandma or mum or dad or older sibling was having to do the cleaning. So I realized that we need to normalize the cleaning process. So this is what I say: pack, wash, wipe. Pack away your ingredients and all of the equipment. Wash up anything that needs to be washed up. And the last thing to do is wipe down the bench. I remember we had this, when I had the cooking school in Parramatta, I had this one kid and he said to me, "Oh, are you for real? Are you teaching me how to wipe down a bench?" And I said to him, "Buddy, look around." And there was kids like wiping, like stuff going everywhere. And I said, "You've learnt how to wipe down, you wipe everything towards yourself, but not everybody does." So again, another little skill: pack, wash, wipe. Make it a life-giving experience. When you're cooking together as a family, it can be a beautiful, beautiful experience, creating memories together. We talk about, I didn't have this experience, but a lot of people cook with their grandparents, learn how to cook, because grandparents can sometimes have a bit more patience than that busyness of every day. But creating memories together when you're doing things it can be an incredibly beautiful and enriching time. I read something about 6 months ago, and it was, if you ever want to have a tricky conversation with someone, do it when you're not looking at them, when you're doing an activity where you're not sitting across the table in a confrontational way. So, when you've got the kids in the car, and I know when I used to drive my kids to activities, I would, you've got them in the car, and you've got them spellbound, and they can't go anywhere. They're on their way to gymnastics. So you're able to have these conversations. And so the same thing with cooking, you're doing something together and you're able to have a narrative and bring things up that you can talk about together. So making cooking a really positive experience. So cheer them on. If you are really active on social media in your personal account, you can take photos of what your kids have cooked and then upload them. We have in our members group, we have a Facebook page, and I'm always encouraging the parents, post what you've cooked so I can see what the kids have done. And there are some parents that just love their kids being on social media, and so happy to put their face and their muffins or whatever they've cooked on it in our group. Or sometimes it's just, hey, here's my sausage rolls, or here is my risotto. And it's a way of cheering them on, if that works for your family, of course. And as I said, that opportunity to discuss life. So going back to just recapping our 5 points. Set your culture. You're wanting to make it this really life-giving experience. So set the culture before you start the cooking process. Difficult conversations before you're in the kitchen. Communicate clearly the what, the how, the when. Prepare yourself. Make sure that you're organized so that the kids aren't getting distracted and, oh, I've got to go and get this now. Oh, I've got to go to the shop, and then the kids are that you've lost them. Prepare yourself. Teach at the appropriate learning stage. One thing I'll say about that is that the kids have access to so much information, and I've had kids come to me and then they've been watching all this amazing cooking on YouTube and think that they're able to pull that off. So teaching at the appropriate skill level is so, so important. Normalize cleaning, normalize pack, wash, wipe. And the last thing is making it, so we're coming back to the first point again, is make it a life-giving experience. The memories that your children have from when they're small last for a lifetime. So creating a beautiful cooking environment creates positive memories for them to reinforce as they grow, as they stretch their skills, and stretch their life skills, that the skills that they're learning in the kitchen, the language that they're learning, the maths that they're learning, they're set up for life. So beautiful.
Thank
All
you.
right. Great.
I'm just going to remove this. Thank you, Beth, for sharing all of that with us. I think there's a delay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I think there's just a little delay in the backwards and forwards, but that's okay. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I am wondering if you can tell us when your next free kids cooking class is, because I know like once every 3 months or so you run a free cook along. When is that coming up?
All right. That is Saturday the 23rd. So in Sydney time, it's in the afternoon after morning activities. But there is always a replay, so that if you are in another time zone, you can watch the replay. And so what that is, it's a taster for what a live cooking class is all about. And so I teach tips and tricks and skills, and I talk about the whys, why we do something. And so it's a really good taster class for you to be able to bring the kids along to in your own home. The kids are in their own kitchen. They know where everything is. They know when to ask for help. And of course, then you get to have something incredibly delicious. And it is chocolatey choc muffins and sausage rolls. So we always do the same menu, and so that you can get to taste something savory, something sweet, and the kids have had a great experience. You can come to both classes or just attend the one that floats your boat.
Yeah.
So if you're a sweet tooth but not really a savory or vegetarian, then come along to the chocolatey choc muffins class. Beautiful. And I think we're
They're
going
so
to
much
include the
fun.
link below somewhere.
Yep, the link's on the screen right now. Can you see? Are you looking at the screen or are you just looking at something else? That's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Beth. I love the tech.
Great, we love that.
You can tell that this is like the first co-session of the summit, right? Because we're all a bit like, which button, what screen are we looking at? All the things. But yes, the link's there, kidsloveToCook.com.au/free. You can see it right there. And also, if you go to kidslovetocook.com.au, there's some recipes there. Beth's put together 5 incredible recipes for getting your kids started. Again, my kids have loved this so much, and now my 6-year-old makes herself breakfast every morning. She cooks scrambled eggs. She's like started exploring other things. So for me, it means that I don't have to make my kids food anymore, except for the 3-year-old. But most of the time I can also get them to feed him as well. So it just makes everything so much easier, like when your kids can do that one extra thing. And so explore this or get your kids in the kitchen. It's a really we're giving you some free ways, and then of course there's the cooking club with like hundreds of recipes if you want to have the live cook alongs every week. And I've got like 100 motorbikes just going past my window right now, so hopefully we can't hear it at all. There's like a convoy. You know how sometimes they do that. Anyway, they're having a good old ride today. And on that note, we will let you go. But thank you so much for sharing all of that incredible wisdom with us. Bye, Beth.
Great. All right. Happy cooking.